I'll be presenting agenda item 1 before the newly elected chair gives a short introductory statement on some housekeeping rules for the meeting that we announced at the beginning of all our committee meetings in BCBC, and then the chair will proceed to take over the rest of the agenda then for the remaining business after item 1. So without further ado, could I have a mover, please, for the appointment of chairperson, and by way of rota that takes place annually on this joint committee, this should be this year a Bridgend County Borough Council member. Councillor John?
Proposed Councillor Spanswick.
Could I have a seconder, please?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Griffiths. Councillor Spanswick, could you take the chair, please, for the remainder of the agenda?
Yep, thank you, Mark, and thank you members. Thank you for trying to give me the opportunity to chair this great committee. So you'll begin to learn, and those of you who have me before, over the next year. And before I go any further, I'm a big thanks to Councillor Gwyn John for being chair the past year, keeping things in shape, along with Joanna and the rest of the team there. So a big thank you for that. It's been difficult times. There's one slight problem moving forward, that I haven't got a script to read. Mark just mentioned. I know I've read it many times before. Mark, are you there with a? Don't disappear, Mark.
Yes, I sent it this morning to all the BCBC members.
What time that was? Hang on then.
Yeah, I'll tell you now, Chair.
Find it then.
Sorry about that.
The emails don't stop and they get lost, and one gets lost in.
Yeah, it's been particularly busy today. It was sent, Chair, at 10:06.
10:06. Got it. Okie doke. Okay, right. So I'd like to welcome all members and officers to the meeting of Coychurch Crematorium Joint Committee, which due to health and safety reasons will be held virtually. The meeting has been recorded and will be available via the Council's website to be viewed as soon as it's practicable following the meeting. Everyone participating in this meeting will be accessing it from remote locations. Please could everybody ensure that mobile phones are switched off or to silent mode. Members will receive an electronic copy of the agenda, and officers will be asked to present a summary of the key points. For the record, the agenda can be viewed on the Council's website. Members and officers will be speaking at various points during the meeting, and those speaking may switch the cameras on at that point. And with the exception of the chairperson, at all other times, you should keep your cameras and microphones switched off, as this will help to minimize any background noise and interference, and to ensure the connection remains as stable as possible. If any members and officers wish to raise a point or question, should press the hands up icon on the screen at the top and right hand side of the Microsoft Teams window. Chairperson will come to you in order the request is received. Please lower your hand once you've finished speaking, and the chat button has been disabled for this meeting. Please do not use your microphone until you've been invited by the chairperson to do so. Officers from Democratic Services will be supporting the meeting and will be monitoring the use of microphones throughout the meeting, and where necessary, will mute those not being used. Officers will be asked to introduce themselves as and when they're invited to speak during the course of the meeting. They too should ensure microphones and cameras are switched off when not in use. So we'll now proceed to the agenda business. I know we've just done item 1. But before we go any further, because you are a new committee and some new members, we perhaps just first go through the screen, just introduce each other, so we all know we are from the 3 authorities. There's some returning members and some new members. So, first on screen, Councillor Simon Griffiths.
Thank you very much, John. So Simon Griffiths, I'm the member for, I've got to get this right, haven't I? Brackley East and Coychurch Lower. Obviously, that's the new ward that was created recently, and where the crematorium resides.
Thank you. I've got Eilish Thomas. I'm trying to look on the screen.
Yep, Hello, my name's Eilish Thomas. I'm Finance Manager, Financial Control, Closing and Systems for Bridgend Council.
Thank you. Got Michael here supporting us. Michael, let's go through everybody.
Thanks, Chair. I'm Mike Pittman, Democratic Services Officer, Committees for Bridgend Council. Thanks.
Thank you. Mark, Galvin.
Thanks, Chair. I'm Mark Alvin, Senior Democratic Services Officer, Committees. I support councillors in Bridgend County Borough Council.
This is going to go wrong now because the screen is changing every time I'm trying to go through. Kevin Mulcahy.
Hi, I'm Kevin Mulcahy. I'm the Group Manager for Highways and Green Spaces. I'm standing in today in the absence of Zach Shell.
Thank you. Joanna.
Hello, I'm Joanna Hamilton. I'm the Bereavement Services Manager and Registrar for Coychurch Crematorium Joint Committee and Bridgend County Borough Council.
Thank you. Councillor Julie Lynch-Wilson.
Hi, I'm Julie Lynch-Wilson. I'm Councillor for St Athan, Vale of Glamorgan.
Thanks, Julie. Councillor Barry Stevens.
Hi everyone. Councillor for Glenharry Ward, returning after a 5-year break. Nice to see you, John, and Joanne, who I know well. Thank you again. Hopefully I'll make a contribution this time. I did serve on this committee in the past, but that's all from me. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Barry. Good to see you. Yeah, great. Councillor Eugene Caparos.
Hi, I'm Eugene Caparos. I'm the also a councillor in Bracklet East and Coychurch Lower.
Thanks, Eugene. I'm trying to see if I've missed anybody. Oh, I think that is everybody. Go on, Councillor John Gwynn. Out, Councillor Gwynn.
Yes.
How could I miss you?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councillor Gwyn John, Vale of Glamorgan, Cabinet Member for Leisure, Sport and Wellbeing. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thanks very much. I think I've covered everybody now. I can see it on the screen. Okie doke. Right then, so thank you for that. Just to give evidence when we're meeting in person, it's a lot easier to do that, but do that. Thank you. Item 2 on the agenda, election of vice chairperson, and in accordance again with the rota system we're using, that is due to be from the Rhondda Cyntaf County Borough Council. So we have a proposer, please. Nomination. Councillor John.
Councillor Barry Stevens.
Thank you. Propose Councillor Barry Stevens for Rhondda Cyntaf. And a seconder for that, please. Don't be shy.
Seconded, Simon.
Thank you, Simon. That's moved and seconded. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Barry, and as Vice Chair.
Delighted to work with you, John. Thank you.
Thank you. That's great. Great stuff. We'll be a good team, I'm sure. Right. Item 3 then, apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies from members or officers? Michael, please.
Thanks, Chair. We've had apologies from Councillor Cowis Stallard from Vale of Glamorgan Council.
And I take it Zach Shell as well?
Yes, sorry, and Zach Shell as well.
Yeah. Councillor John, I think you just right. You just
Yeah,
given
we
the
just
apology.
covering that one. Yeah.
Thank you. Great. So that's the apologies. No further apologies, no. Okay. Item 4, sorry, then declaration of interest. Are there any declarations of personal prejudice interest from members or officers? No. Okay. Don't see any indications. So no declarations. If anything does come up through the meeting, please raise your hand. Item 5 then, approval of minutes from the 4th of March 22. Councillor John.
I move the minutes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And it needs to be somebody that was there in that meeting. Anybody else that was been in that meeting?
Don't think there was anyone else, Mr. Chairman.
No.
Right here today, anyway.
Mark, advice on that, Mark?
Yeah, we don't need any other members. It's a process we're familiar with when we come to a new term of office, that there are changeover of members. So that it's fine to approve the minutes as they stand, Chair.
Okay, doke. Okay, so they've been approved then. Next item on the agenda.
Sorry, Chair. Did we have a
Yep.
seconder there for the minutes? We do need a seconder.
Oh, still need a second, even though he wanted to meet. Even though
Yes,
it's
we
not
need
somebody,
to
right?
move on a seconder for.
Right. Okay, somebody a second those minutes.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Harry, thank you.
Sorry.
Right. Okay, so that's item 5 done. So item 6, an annual review of the 2021-22 business plan objectives. Joanna, you taking this one?
Yes, please, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Joanna. Over to you.
Thank you, Chairman, and good afternoon, members of the Joint Committee. For the benefit of new members, you who may not have met me before, I've just introduced myself to you, and I normally attend this meeting along with Zach Shell. The annual review of the 2021-22 business plan objectives begins on page 11 of the reports pack. A business plan is presented for approval by the Joint Committee annually at the March meeting and includes service objectives and proposed maintenance and improvement projects to enhance and maintain the crematorium grounds and the buildings for the forthcoming financial year. In line with the Memorandum of Agreement, the purpose of the June annual review is to look back at performance of the crematorium during the preceding financial year of 2021-22, to review performance against the 2021-22 business plan, and a number of headings have been identified which can be analysed in more detail starting on page 13. Firstly, the total number of cremations in 2021-22 was 1,681, made up of 1,024 from Bridgend, 140 from the Vale of Glamorgan and 459 from Rhondda and Taff, with 58 from outside of the three authorities. While the mid part of 2021 was still experiencing some impact from the COVID-19 pandemic with higher cremation numbers, this began to drop to more normal levels towards the latter part and into the early part of this year as the vaccination programme took effect. When I delivered this report last June, I reported 2,086 cremations for the financial year 2020-21, an increase of 416 cremations on the previous pre-COVID financial year, which was a quarter more deaths than would have been expected. So we are now seeing a more normal death rate return, replacing those very sad circumstances. The second heading on page 13 details service standards through the results of the public satisfaction questionnaires sent out in 2021-22, which are all sent to the cremation applicants. The target is to achieve 100% overall satisfaction levels rated at good or excellent, and I'm pleased to report that these remain constant at 100%, with a target set in 2022-23 business plan for the same result. The observations and comments provided by the cremation applicants are detailed for you to read, and I've added some notes where applicable to assist with clarity. Due to the pandemic, 2021-22 has remained extremely challenging, and despite the higher numbers of funerals and the restrictions in place to keep mourners and staff safe, feedback is very positive, and where necessary, I have responded to the cremation applicant in writing. There are some really positive comments regarding the professional sensitive attention received from crematorium staff and the way that the funeral services are run, and also the high standards of maintenance of the grounds and buildings, including the peaceful atmosphere of the site. The benefits of the crematorium's webcast system were clearly very much appreciated during the pandemic period. You will note some comments between April and September relating to restrictions in place as a result of the pandemic. But from October onwards, these comments cease as restrictions slowly relaxed. You will also note some negative comments regarding the crematorium sound system between April and September. But again, from October onwards, these comments cease when both chapels receive completely new digital music and media systems, which are proving to be extremely successful. I would also add additionally, and of particular note, is the achievement of the Green Flag Award again in 2021 for the 12th year in succession. This is the nationally recognised award for standards of care, maintenance and good management practices of the site and grounds. The award confirms the commitment to maintaining high standards, which can be appreciated by all our visitors. The third heading on page 20 details the expenditure programme for planned works in 2021-22. In combination with the table on page 21, we can analyse the progress of the service objectives for last year. In summary, planned works in 2021-22 primarily concentrated on firstly the installation of external lighting to the site. Despite the challenges of the pandemic, this was completed in July last year with a final spend of £250,000, which was within the original estimated budget of £300,000. Not only does the new external lighting look absolutely stunning, it has received many compliments, but it has enabled the crematorium to provide later service times in the winter months, when previously the darker nights prevented this for reasons of safety. And secondly, the upgrade to the chapel music and media systems took place, which were replaced in both chapels and included additional speakers and new overflow and visual tribute screens. And this was completed in December last year with a final spend of £45,000, again within the original estimated budget. The coronavirus pandemic has caused delays to our other main project, the Flower Court extension, with the project moved to the current 2022-23 budget, and there is a separate report to follow. The budget strategy review has been completed and was reported to the 2022-23 business plan report at the previous meeting of the Joint Committee on the 4th of March this year, with the service remaining financially self-sufficient. The table on page 21 summarises the timescales and officer responsibilities for the service objectives over the past and current financial years. In addition to these proposed service developments, a property contingency is included in the crematorium's revenue budget to cover unplanned works and general repair and maintenance. I would also remind the Joint Committee of the Crematorium Surplus Fund, which is designed to build up reserves for the future replacement of the cremators and ancillary plant in approximately 10 years' time, as well as fund all future service improvements. Maintaining this reserve will ensure the crematorium has sufficient long-term funds for both, plus any unplanned eventualities that could occur. So further details of this and the overall budget will be explained in the Treasurer's report. The Joint Committee is recommended then to please note the report. Thank you, Chairman.
Thanks, Joanna. Thank you for that. Can we first have somebody to move and second the report? Then we'll see if there's any questions or queries, comments. Councillor Gwynn.
I'd just like to pay tribute to Joanna and the staff. They've had a huge, difficult time with the pandemic, and I think the crematorium has continued to continue the way they've worked over many, many years. Quite honestly, the green flag for 12 years speaks for itself. The superb facilities at Coychurch Crematorium is a tribute to all the staff and the work that's been done. So to be honest with you, absolutely well done, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gwynn. Was you moving the report as well then?
Yes, I move the report.
Okay, Councillor Barry Stevens.
First, I'll second the report and
Thank you.
again endorse what my previous speaker just said. It's an outstanding facility that we should all be proud of. Thank you, Joanne, and all staff.
Thank you. That's been moved and seconded. Any further speakers or question on the report? If not, I can just two comments I'd like to make. The green flag, I don't think officially we are aware of yet this year. Later this month it'll be announced, the green flag. I'm amazed that a long time has passed, but I was cabinet member 2010 when the first green flag I think started. I've had a long time away, come back, and they're still winning the green flag. So long way to continue, and that's not an easy award to win, and it just speaks volumes about the Crem. And on that similar subject, on the grounds, there's a comment in there. I think somebody asked for additional rose gardens or more rose gardens. Well, last week I took the Wales in Bloom judge with my other hat on, around Brackler. Just took him to show the wonderful grounds, and he commented that the rose gardens there, if they're not the largest after Edinburgh, they are definitely the second largest in the country. He said it could even be the largest because it's hard to judge exactly the size of well, we can measure them, I suppose. So clearly we have the largest or one of the largest rose gardens in the UK sitting in this marvellous facility. So that's something to be proud of, and the way they're kept as well. On top of that, you can't fault it. Just need to spread these standards across the county better, which is not easy. But Councillor Paul Davis, thank you all to the staff and everybody, and Joanna, marvellous team. Councillor Paul Davis.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'd just like to say I echo the comments made by the other people who've spoken. It's my first time on the committee, so I'm not, obviously it's all new to me, so I just say thank you very much. And like I said, with the COVID crisis, it seemed that the Crem seemed to work through it, with exemplary fashion, in fairness to them. So congratulations, all I can say at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. And I think in the normal circumstances, at the start of a committee cycle, we may still have the opportunity to actually have a tour of the grounds in person at some point, so members can see if they haven't been there. Most members have been there, I suppose, but just to understand the whole operation there and marvellous facility we have. Right, so that's been moved and seconded. That's item 6, the annual review. Thank you, Joanna, for that very much. And we'll now move on to item 7 then, the internal audit of Coychurch Crematorium. And who's taking this one now? This is Kevin, is it?
Yes.
Radio, Kevin, over to you on item 7.
Running a bit. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members. The internal audit took place to enable the certification of the annual return for financial year ending 31st of March 2022. So I'm sure members had the opportunity to review the report, but I just want to pick up on the fact that following the report, the audit report concluded that there was substantial assurance that there was a sound system of governance, risk management and control within this, and I have to say, that for me is, I think, an outstanding result for the team again in providing such positive assurance of financial management. Within the report, there was one item that was seen where improvement could happen. It wasn't to say there was anything wrong with the systems, but again, always seeking improvement in everything we do. And it related to payments to the medical referee that has to take place within the processes. And there was a pre-existing system that existed here as well as elsewhere, where the auditor thought we could have improved the process in regard of invoicing and acknowledgement of those invoices. So that has been picked up by Joanna and the team and have already implemented that change. So as I said, I think, the report is there for noting by the members of the committee. And certainly, as I say, I believe, from the substantial assurance that this report's given, I think it's a wonderful accolade to the team and the management of the system. So yes, the report is there, and obviously for the joint committee to note the outcome of the internal audit report.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Yes, and the recommendation is to note the internal audit report. So, Councillor John Gwynn.
Yeah, just move the report. Another excellent response from the staff. Thank you very much.
My apologies, Councillor Gwyn. John, I got the name wrong way around. A seconder.
Yeah, Simon, I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Simon Griffiths. That's moved and seconded. The internal audit report. Any comments, questions, queries? All happy with that? That's good.
I'll just comment that it's really nice to see an audit report being acted on so quickly and effectively. I think that's good credit to the organisation there. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Griffiths. Yeah, that's great to see. Well done again to all the team involved there, finance team and the operational team. So that brings up to 7. The close. We now on to item 8. And Joanna or Kevin doing this one? Or is it a joint? Joanna first, yeah.
It's me, please. Thank
Okay,
you, Chair.
thank you, Joanna. Item 8.
Okay, thank you. So for the purposes of our new members, I'll analyse the report in a fair bit of detail as this project has been ongoing since 2018. So starting on page 37 of the reports pack, the purpose of the report is to request approval to award the contract resulting from the tender process for the planned extension works to the covered flower court facility positioned at the exit of the larger chapel, Crashlow Chapel. The extension is designed to improve the mourners' experience and the movement of the congregation by providing a larger covered facility on the currently unused grass area. The design being in keeping with the crematorium's Grade 2 star listed building status and the design ethos of the extremely eminent original architect Maxwell Fry. At the meeting on the 14th of June 2019, the Joint Committee was introduced to the architect Jonathan Adams of the Percy Thomas Architects, Capita Real Estate and Infrastructure, a previous president of the Royal Society of Architects in Wales and noted for various prestigious projects, including the Millennium Centre in Cardiff Bay. The Joint Committee was provided with a detailed presentation of his proposed design for the extension works. Some of the architect's images are shown on pages 45 to 48 of the report, and I think Kevin is going to present them on the screen for us to look at just for a moment, please.
Great, yeah.
So while they're going through, I'll just talk with them there for the purpose of the new members of the Joint Committee. You can see it's a most impressive design, effective for the requirements of the bereaved and staff, but also complements the religious ethos of the existing buildings and the grounds. It maximises the use of space. It's a large structure. It provides a new door aperture from the rear of the existing chapel that leads directly into the extended covered flower court, which greatly improving the speed at which mourners can vacate the chapel to view the funeral tributes, while additionally improving safety in the case of an emergency evacuation. And it also provides covered access between the door at the top of the cloister walkway to the chapel exit doors. The design takes its dome-like form from historic religious buildings of different faiths. It's displaying handkerchief vaults built from steel and hardwood frames and featuring stone walling, stone paving and stained glass, all high-end natural materials beautifully crafted, which complement the current architectural style of the building. Thank you, Kevin. So the Joint Committee approved the design and authorised that officers proceed to apply for planning permission and invite tenders for the construction works, subject to further approval. The funding for the project was then estimated at £540,000 and would be accommodated from the crematorium's reserve funds. At the meeting on the 4th of September 2020, the Joint Committee was again updated that despite the pandemic, work had progressed in some areas, and mainly that all statutory approvals had been achieved, including listed building consent from Welsh Government. And I would make note that we have worked extremely closely with our conservation planners and Cadw on this project, who have very positively endorsed this design. At the meeting on the 5th of March last year, the Joint Committee was advised that the pandemic had impacted upon the timetable and funds were moved to the 2021-22 budget to enable our architect to continue to actively progress the procurement stage and the preparation of tenders. The pandemic has had a detrimental impact upon the speed at which the tender stage could be reached, and at the meeting of the 4th of March this year, the Joint Committee was advised that tenders would be invited through eTender Wales in March, in accordance with Bridgend Council's contract and financial procedure rules, with construction works planned to commence summertime this year. The original estimated budget cost of £550,000 was included in the Crematorium's business plan and the 2022-23 revenue budget and approved by the Joint Committee. The Joint Committee delegated to the Clerk and Technical Officer the power to approve the acceptance of the most economically advantageous tender, unless the tender amount exceeded the allocated budget cost, at which point a further report would be submitted to the Joint Committee to confirm final approval of tenders. The Joint Committee was advised that the Crematorium's Reserve Fund would be able to accommodate a higher construction cost if required. So on the 18th of March, Bridgend Council invited tenders via an open tender process through eTender Wales and an advert on Sell to Wales. The final date of the return of tenders was the 17th of June, and one tender was opened by Bridgend Council's procurement manager and cabinet committee. The invitation to tender contains several quality questions as well as a commercial submission, and Capita Real Estate and Infrastructure was instructed to carry out a qualitative and quantitative tender evaluation. The combined quality and commercial scoring can be seen in the table on page 40 of the report. The most economically advantageous tender, taking into account quality and price, was submitted by South Wales Contractors Limited in the sum of £1,269,956.74. The quality element of the tender submission was scored extremely highly. The tender review report produced by Capita is attached at page 49, which includes a recommendation to engage South Wales Contractors Limited as the successful tenderer. Now, while it is recognised that the commercial sum for the project is substantially higher than the estimated budget amount originally provided by Capita back in early 2019 and with one tender submission, the architect, Mr. Jonathan Adams, has provided a number of reasons and reassurances for the current status of the project. Those being the impact of the pandemic, largely placing the project on hold in 2020 following the first COVID-19 knockdown. The bespoke design depended greatly on the input of specialist suppliers and manufacturers to finalise the design of the timber roof structure, including the construction of a prototype frame, all of which closed down. The design team began working with specialists again in 2021. The resultant staff resource issues prevented them from also submitting tenders. The unconventional bespoke design creates procurement challenges. It's been tailored to the unique character, history, and listed building status of the crematorium. So, like the existing building, the new design has few standard components. So the accurate execution of the details and good quality workmanship is crucial, limiting those capable of tendering. The positioning of the construction site directly adjacent to Crathlow Chapel and the existing flower court demands special care to ensure public safety and also limited working hours to enable the crematorium to remain operational. These constraints are specific to the crematorium and add significant risk for the contractor. The scale of the build, the high quality of skills required, and the challenging site constraints, all taken together, have the effect of making the project unattractive to potential bidders from outside the South Wales area, as they would incur additional costs, and that would represent a significant percentage of the contract value, especially as their supply chains are also likely to be geographically remote. Having conducted a search, Capita concluded that tender submissions would be low in number and received from firms with prior knowledge of the crematorium site. Consequently, although unusual to receive one tender, it is not unexpected. The tender received is a strong submission. The contractor has invested much time and effort into fully understanding the detailed specifics of the design information to ensure that their pricing is comprehensive and accurate. They have given careful consideration to the sequence of works, and I can confirm that they provided an extremely comprehensive and impressive build programme, which demonstrated a deep understanding of the technicalities of the build. And because they have successfully completed several projects at the crematorium already, they have a better understanding of the constraints and the risks of the site than any other bidder could have. Their previous experience of working at the crematorium and providing the highest standards of workmanship meant that they scored highly on the information they provided in the quality section of the tender. So it is Capita's view that this contractor would most likely have won the tender process regardless of more tenders being received. Price inflation has impacted greatly. The project was approved over 3 years ago, but from the summer of 2020 was then on standstill due to the pandemic lockdown. When the construction industry in the UK remobilised towards the end of last year, construction costs rose rapidly and significantly right across the industry due to acute shortages of both materials and labour, with material costs for timber rising by 80% and steel by 60%, for example. Inflation remains well in excess of RPI inflation. We are all aware of Brexit, rising fuel costs, etc., and Capita feel that the tender submission reflects current market prices and risk allowance and is a good tender. I would make note here also that having worked closely on this tender and having scrutinised the 80+ design drawings provided to contractors as part of the tender, I can appreciate the large scale and complexity of the very bespoke build and the high quality materials used to complement the existing building status, and therefore why the commercial value of the tender is considered very competitive. When you consider that over 7 years ago, via competitive tender, it cost the crematorium 1.2 million to build a basic small block extension and install 2 cremators and associated plant, it provides a little perspective. The Joint Committee is further advised that South Wales contractors regularly win competitive tender construction projects and civil engineering works with Bridgend Council and other councils, which reassuringly demonstrates their reliability to provide high quality workmanship and competitive pricing. When preparing their tender, they would have expected to be in competition with other tenderers. They are a contractor of choice by the facilities and corporate landlord construction team, having worked on endless projects across all sections of the council, including the civic offices, our nursing homes, schools, and the highways department, also proving to be experts in working on live buildings. In relation to Coychurch Crematorium, they have carried out a vast number of building projects won on competitive tender. including the extension of the waiting room facility and installation of new disabled toilets, the reconfiguration and refurbishment of the flower court toilets and the toilet block adjoining Coychurch Chapel, the provision of the new road infrastructure and car park in our new land extension, and most recently were awarded the tender for the external lighting project completed last July. They have demonstrated very high standards of workmanship at competitive costs and an ability to work seamlessly around the crematorium while it remains operational and with timely efficiency. There has been no structural addition to the public areas of the main crematorium building since it opened in 1970, and the extension will vastly improve the bereavement experience at the facility, resolving the current bottleneck as mourners leave the premises and assist with the safer movement of mourners through the building as a whole. It will provide a large, pleasant, covered open space from which mourners can disperse after a funeral, away from the toilet corridor, and with an additional door opening to the rear of Pratlow Chapel to assist with this. The problems associated with the existing flower court corridor have been further highlighted during the recent pandemic, unfortunately, when the confined space and the social distancing requirements meant that it could not be utilised during the period of restrictions, requiring mourners to pass straight through to the outside road area, regardless of weather conditions. The current plastic side to the existing flower court corridor, which was a new addition and installed prior to the listed building status of the crematorium, does not complement the high standards of architectural design provided by Maxwell Fry, and by today's standards would not have been accepted by planners, and it will benefit from being replaced by a high-end design facility using the very best of natural materials, which has gained a positive endorsement from the Planning Conservation Officer. Since the crematorium opened in 1970, the choice for cremation has increased to over 80%, and congregation sizes have increased hugely, with complete funeral services taking place at the crematorium rather than at churches first. And this has been further emphasised by the need to install screens and speakers in the cloister to accommodate the large numbers of mourners attending the crematorium, despite the chapel being one of the largest in the UK. With the 50th anniversary of the opening of the crematorium having occurred during the height of the pandemic in 2020, such an improvement to the building would provide a befitting way to mark the occasion and address the needs of modern times by investing in the crematorium's future expansion in a way that embraces its listed building status. As a result of the increased death rate during the 2020 and 2021 of the pandemic, a total of 570 additional cremations took place, which created £400,000 of additional income in cremation fees, and this does not include a substantial amount more revenue created from the sale of memorials. The project provides a befitting way of investing that additional income in a manner that improves the bereavement experience for future generations, in recognition of the sadness that has facilitated it. The additional £720,000 required for the project will be transferred to the crematorium's accumulated surplus reserve fund, which currently has a balance of £3.2 million. This would be reduced to £2.5 million, and it's considered a sufficient level to fund future cremation plant and improvements and maintain and protect the service in light of unknown demands or emergencies. So the Joint Committee is therefore recommended to approve the tender from South Wales Contractors Limited in the sum of £1,269,956.74 and to award the contract to this contractor. And secondly, to delegate to the Clerk and Technical Officer the power to approve the final terms of the contract and thereafter arrange for the execution of the contract on behalf of the Joint Committee. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Joanna, to take us through that. echoes coming back. You've committed. There's only one way to do this, and that's to do a proper quality job that befits the rest of the building and grounds. And albeit we have to all accept cost increases in the current climate. So, unfortunately, the reserves are there. So this is the way forward, I feel. Councillor John.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was actually deputising in the chair that day when we met Jonathan Adams for the presentation, we'll all remember. And quite honestly, it was a very well received by the members that time. It was recognised, as Joanna has told us today, the need for the exit from the chapel. It had to be improved, and having two doors, the rear and the present door, out from the crematorium will give us more space, as John has explained. And quite honestly, this is common sense, because when you think about it, the number of funerals that are waiting to come through to the crematorium have been delayed at times in the past because of the numbers of people going to services, can't get out in time. So it's always a bit of a clutter. I quite honestly, the delay of this, obviously 4 years down the line, and everything has increased, as we've seen in all services, the high costs and everything. But at the same time, when you look at our accounts and the fact that we've got almost 2.5 million in reserve after doing this project, I think this would be a wonderful memorial to those people that lost their lives during the COVID. It was a terrible pandemic we've gone through, and it's not gone yet. But at the same time, I think this would be a tribute to those people, and I'm fully supportive in going ahead with this project, Mr. Chairman. The quality and everything, and the fact that we've got the top crematorium, as far as I'm concerned, in the UK. And I quite honestly feel that we've got to go ahead with this now. If we turn it down now, then we'll regret this, because prices will increase. And then with all this stack of money in reserves, they will be looking what to do, because audit-wise, they look to see money moving and projects started. And at the same time, we've done the cremators back in 2016, I believe the time was. And quite honestly, it'll be some years yet before we need attention to the cremators. So I would move, Mr. Chairman, that we accept the recommendations on page 43 this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I've got Councillor Simon Griffiths is showing his hand. Councillor Barry Stevens, we come to you now after. Councillor Simon Griffiths? Are you there?
Apologies, I didn't come off mute. So yeah, I'd like to register agreement to everything that Councillor John has just said. I think those are really excellent points. The only question I had was, what has been the pattern of our reserves over the last, say, 5 years in terms, are they generally increasing or decreasing? Just to get us a certainty that we are not putting ourselves in a more difficult situation in the longer term.
Thank you for that. Joanna, are you able to quickly answer that one?
Of course, Chair. Yes, the crematorium is in a very good financial situation. If we set the pandemic aside and look at a normal financial year without the additional deaths from a pandemic, we always make a surplus. And normally in the region of 150 to 200,000 pounds per year. Of course, we have other projects lined up for the future, but obviously not on this scale. So we can be assured that the crematorium is a very good position financially.
Thank you, Joanna.
Thank you for that. Councillor Barry Stevens.
Thank you, Chair. Just to fully endorse previous speakers and formally second the proposal to go with the recommendations, and thank you for that presentation, Joanne, going through that very carefully. I think it's a marvellous project and a tribute to those people and those families that have lost their loved ones during this time. and I think it's an outstanding design, and let's go for it. We've got the cash.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Julia Lynch-Winston.
Apologies, I've had to move.
Okay.
I'd just like to, I think I'm going to be agreeing with everybody else. It looks a beautiful project. It's bespoke, and unfortunately that does cost. And I can only say that it's going to get much more costly as things go, because everything is. And I just agree with everything everybody said. And you, when I've just had a quick read of obviously the report, and everything looks so prudently done, and you know, I can't fault anything in it. So good luck with the project, and I can't wait to see it.
Abby, thank you for that. Could I just clarify point answer contract date, I suppose, as well? We're middle of July now, so are we still, the clock is ticking? I mean, roughly when would they start, I suppose, and how does it, because you did mention, Joanna, that they have to be sensitive to the times they can work. That's going to be difficult, I suppose. So is it after hours they work, or?
Yeah, we're looking at awarding the contract straight away. So next week, if it gets approval from the Joint Committee, the contractor is obviously aware that if it's approved this afternoon, then we will be looking to commence very quickly with this project. Now, with the state of the market at the moment, it's not easy to get materials. So the very first thing that we will be looking at is making provisions for the materials to get to site. We did originally hope to be actually starting to build in July. I think in reality we're probably looking towards September time now to actually start on site. If we can do it earlier than that, even better. It's down to the contractor and getting the materials and getting everything ready. Yes, we do need to work around our existing funerals. There will be a lot of work done out of hours, but primarily we are very fortunate that we have 2 chapels. So we will be utilising our second chapel primarily throughout this work so that we can speed up the works as quickly as possible. So we'll be working out of hours and in hours with quieter works so that we can achieve, you know, a result as quickly as possible so that we can get our funerals back into our larger chapel as quickly as possible. There will be some days when we'll be in both chapels depending on what works are going on, but the aim is to progress with this project as quickly as possible and to finish it as quickly as possible.
Thank you, John. Thank you very much. Kevin?
Yes, just like to add on to that, obviously with any contract, we'll need to engage with the contractor, get the program in place so we all know what we're working towards. There will be off-site procurements for them. I mean, the design itself will need, you know, manufacturing off-site components. So they've got to schedule all that and then program it into delivery and then implementation on site. So a lot of work to be done. But yeah, great to hear it moving forward and getting a quality outcome for you know the public and also for the facility itself.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you for that. And I say the recommendations 9.1 and 9.2 has been moved and seconded. I take it everybody's in favour. There's don't you anybody shouting or raising hands? I take it we're all in favour to proceed as per the recommendations. Yes, okay. Lovely. Thank you all for that. That's that item removed, and I can't wait to see the finished product hopefully next year. Hopefully next one. That's it will be a marvellous addition to a wonderful facility. Thank you for
Chairman.
that, Joanna. We now got item 9, the annual accounting statement. Is that one for Eilish just taking us through?
Yes, it is.
Okay, over to you. Thank you.
Many thanks. For the purpose of the recording, my name is Eilish Thomas, Finance Manager, Financial Control, Closing and Systems. The purpose of the report is to present the unaudited annual accounting statement for the 2021-22 financial year to the Joint Committee and to obtain approval to submit the statement for the Coychurch Crematorium to Audit Wales. The Accounts and Audit Wales Regulation 2018 require that the Joint Committee must formally approve an annual accounting statement by the 30th of June and certify that they present fairly the financial position of the crematorium. Due to the local government elections in May, the Joint Committee were unable to approve the statement by this date. However, it has been agreed with Audit Wales to accept the annual accounting statement being agreed at today's meeting. Unless the annual accounting statement needs to be amended, the auditor will certify the statement and send it back to the Joint Committee for publication with no further approval required. If, however, amendments are required, the auditor will send the statement back to the committee for amendment and reapproval before the auditor can certify the statement. The certified annual accounting statement must be published by no later than the 30th of September. The annual accounting statement can be found in Appendix 1, which is page 65 of the report pack. Section 1 shows that in 2021-22, the Coychurch Crematorium made a net surplus of 280,724. The surplus has been added to the accumulated reserve for the crematorium brought forward at the 31st of March 2021, bringing the total of that reserve to 3,179,607 at the 31st of March 2022, compared to 2,898,883 in the preceding year. Table 1 shows a summary of the final financial position for the crematorium as compared to the budget set at the start of the year. Paragraph 4.2 provides some detail on the main variances. The overspend of 33,000 on employees is due to 2 additional crematorium technicians being employed for the full financial year, which is offset by an underspend of 17,000 on other employee costs. The additional costs of the 2 posts have been funded by the Welsh Government COVID-19 Hardship Fund, which is included in the increased income. The underspend of 143,000 on premises is made up of underspends on plant maintenance 129,000, grounds maintenance 1,000, utilities 10,000 and business rates 3,000. The underspend of 12,000 on agencies and contractors relates to grounds maintenance and waste disposal. While the budget was increased for 21-22, the expenditure remained the same as the previous year. Table 2 shows a breakdown of the planned capital maintenance budget along with the outturn and variances for the year. The underspends are due to the projects being delayed as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. The Flower Court extension and site lighting projects are planned to continue into 22-23 and are included in the planned capital maintenance budget for 22-23. Income is higher than budgeted by 19,000 due to an increase in COVID-19 Hardship Fund grants from Welsh Government and receipt of the child burial fees grant, offset by a decrease in the number of cremations. The number of cremations has decreased considerably in 21-22. It is anticipated that income levels will return to pre-COVID-19 levels in 22-23. In addition, a supplementary balance sheet is provided in Table 3. This information provides a further breakdown of the figures recorded in the annual accounting statement. This is presented for information only and is not subject to audit at year end. Further information to explain the balances is provided in paragraph 4.4 on page 62 of the pack. Property, plant and equipment of 4.86 million, as recorded on line 12 of the annual accounting statement, represent buildings, land, fixtures and fittings. Inventories of 28,000 relates to stock included in the balance sheet and relates to memorials purchased for future use in the Garden of Remembrance. Short-term debtors of 144,000 represents the monies owed to the crematorium by trade debtors such as funeral directors. Cash and cash equivalents of 3.018 million represents cash held by Bridgend County Borough Council, the financial services provider, as part of its general bank account. Short-term creditors of 7,000 represents monies owed by the crematorium for goods or services received in 21-22. The accumulated surplus of 3.18 million, as recorded in line 11 of the annual accounting statement, reflects the surplus for the current year and the balance of any previous year's surpluses deficits held to fund any future capital works. The revaluation reserve of 1.917 million includes an adjustment in 21-22 of 55,000 relating to a prior period adjustment. I'd like to move to paragraph 9, the recommendations. The Joint Committee is recommended to approve the annual accounting statement for Coychurch Crematorium for 2021-22 as shown in Appendix 1 and request that the Chair of the Joint Committee signs the annual accounting statement prior to submission to Audit Wales.
Okay, thank you, Eilish, for that, taking us through that. It's good to see the report, the comment, positive in there. Councillor John.
Yeah, I move the recommendations, Mr. Chairman. Very
you for
good
that.
account statement. Thank you.
Thank you
I'll
very much.
second that.
Thank you for that, Stevens. That's moved and seconded. Any other members? Any questions, comments, thoughts? No, just checking. Okay. Lovely. Thank you for that, Eilish. That's been moved and seconded. Recommendation is 9.1. And we're all in favour, I take it? Yep. All quiet. Yep. Thank you for that. That's item 9 completed. Rightio. I'm moving on to item 10 then, the urgent items, which there are none that I've noticed have been given. So I'd just like to say now we've got a new committee, some new members, some returning members, and I'm sure you will find this is one of the few committees that doesn't give you a headache. Many, I'm sure, across authorities that do give you headaches. And this is